What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a few things that we're going to be talking about today, particularly our system happening in the MDR, as we've looked at the 0Z model runs and they have turned a corner for the worse. So we're going to be talking about that today, as well as our possible Central American gyre setup and the latest details on that. So once again, a few things to discuss for you guys today, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into those right here. Starting off, this is our National Hurricane Center right here. This is as of the 2 a.m. at Eastern Time advisory. Yes, I'm recording this once again early in the day, so I do apologize for that, but timing isn't really the best for me. But we do have our situation for you right here. This is as of the 2 a.m. advisory, so let's go ahead and read over this. A tropical wave located between the west coast of Africa and the Cabo Verde Islands is producing limited shower and thunderstorm activity over the far eastern Atlantic. Dry and stable air will likely limit the system's development over the next few days, but a tropical depression could form by the middle to latter parts of next week while moving west-northwestward at 10 to 15 miles per hour over the central tropical Atlantic. 0% in the next 48 hours, 40% in the next 7 days. So that's our situation that we have over here. It's currently located south of the Cabo Verde Islands as well. So we're going to want to watch out for that too, especially as this moves further to the west and into parts of the central MDR. That's where conditions do start to get a little bit better, and we can go ahead and show you what's going on with satellite imagery. Here's what we have for you right here. Let's go ahead and take a quick gander at that in the eastern Atlantic. So here's what we have for you right here. We do see some convection starting to go off a little bit here around diurnal maximum right here. Let's go ahead and go to water vapor. Actually, no, water vapor. I want to go to true color, actually, just to illustrate this. Yeah, diurnal max is right about right here, and that's when you're starting to see a little bit of convection starting to fire off. It's not as much as I'm sure a lot of people were anticipating right here, but it is still a very healthy wave regardless. You're definitely seeing that spin, especially popping up right here, as you can see, especially as you move, especially as you move, it moves further to the west. You're definitely seeing that spin starting to really get its act together once again. It's pretty evident on satellite imagery as well that has pretty decent spin on it as well. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to down the line. And going to water vapor imagery once again, what you're looking at right here is actually a relatively moist environment it's in right here. It's mainly just the stability issues that the system is dealing with. However, those stability issues will start to decrease in the next few days as an MJO is forecasted for much of the Atlantic in the next few days to week or so. So we're going to want to watch out for that moving forward. But ultimately, you're looking at this is post-splashdown effect now, and now you're going, okay, what are we looking at with these model runs right here? Because at least in the short term, it doesn't look like it's going to really do that much, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that big of a threat. But in the long run, especially with the latest 0Z models, it definitely looks like it could be a big threat down the line as it moves further towards the west and closer towards land. And we do have that model data to show you as well, so we're going to go ahead and show you that right now. Starting off with the European, let's go ahead and quickly move through this. Actually, no, we're going to take our time with this because I want to go over every aspect of this, because what's the difference between the rest of the models and what we have? Because with the 12Z of the European yesterday, let's go ahead and start with that just for context. With this, here's what we had at the 12Z yesterday. The European was having to slowly get its act together, trying to get its act together and potentially organized, but really not showing that much signs of life right until it gets here, and even then it still has it ultimately as an open wave right here. So that was the 12Z European as of yesterday. It was still kind of battling a few stability issues, still battling parts of the splashdown effect as well, at least for the 12Z suite from yesterday. Here's the 0Z run we have for you today. This is what we have for you Ultimately, the system kind of gets tagged as a low pressure system. It doesn't really organize right away. It's going to take its time doing that, especially as it moves closer towards the Lesser Antilles as well. You start having this develop into a closed low about 5 days out or so. 1006 millibar tropical depression possible as it's trying to get its act together. And you definitely start seeing those isobars starting to consolidate a bit more and concentrate as well. And by the time we're 6 days out, you have a full-blown tropical depression that is kind of moving further to the west right here, 1005 millibars as well. You're getting close to tropical storm strength. Actually, you're at tropical storm strength, and this is about a week out at this current point where the system starts to really start to turn up as it moves into the southwestern Atlantic just north of the Lesser Antilles. This interestingly actually pulls an eerily similar track to that of Hurricane Aaron, as a matter of fact. So you have the system quickly intensifying as well just north of the Dominican Republic as the system starts to make that turn and recurve out to sea, similarly to what Aaron did back a few weeks ago as well. So that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, because the European is showing this, and it's been a rapid escalation compared to what we've seen previously, where before the European was a little bit skeptical of it, but now the 0Z model data is going, yeah, this system's going to be a very aggressive scenario. And looking at the 18Z as well, you weren't even seeing that much of a scenario like that. It's really been the 0Z that's really turned it up, and part of the reason why that is because number one, the tropical upper tropospheric trough that was originally forecasted to kind of limit its intensity down the line, it's not there anymore. Like, the Tut has pretty much disappeared. It got absorbed by the ridge, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing the systems, at least in the long run, get its act together. Another reason for that as well, and we can go ahead and show you that, and we're actually just going to go ahead and pull up some conditions right now, as a matter of fact, while we're talking about this, because I want to show everything, at least with what the European is going for, because this is generally the most reliable model we can use. And here's what we have for you right here. You do have some wind shear trying to hinder it a little bit, at least initially, at least for the next 4 days or so. You do have some wind shear to the north of it. It's going to maybe chip away at the structure and maybe limit its ability to develop, at least until after this point. And then once it does that, you do start to notice the shear starting to weaken, and there is a little bit of quote-unquote shear over here in the southwestern side as well. But I'm not necessarily too worried about that. That could be upper level winds generated by the storm as well, so you're going to want to pay attention to that. But ultimately, you do have a scenario where kind of this system right here with this wind shear, it's a lot of it becomes kind of this upper level flow from the system itself, and then you really start to, as this shear actually weakens quite a bit, it starts to ramp up in intensity at that point. And you also have this ridge right here as it starts to make that turn, really amplifying its outflow as well, which is also part of the reason why you're seeing that intensification in the southwestern Atlantic. So that's kind of a situation that we're dealing with, in a considerable escalation compared to what we've seen previously. Please do keep in mind this is about a week out by the time it starts to intensify and head towards the Antilles. So we still have a lot of unknowns with this. But ultimately, the main takeaway from this is the conditions are a lot better now than what we were originally anticipating with this. And it's not just the European that's forecasting this. It's a lot of the 0Z models as well. The European just finally caught up to the rest of them as well. And I'll also look at the AI model just to see what that's showing as well, because the AI model was did not really show 91L developing, and then the rest of the models dropped support shortly after. So I do want to look at that in just a second, but here's what we have for your moisture component to all of this. The moisture is interesting as well. Taking a quick gander at this right here, taking a quick look at this, you do see a little bit of dry air actually kind of doing some stuff early on, but this is more mixable dry air, and as long as this low pressure system stays in the moisture pocket it does and starts to generate its own convection down the line, I wouldn't necessarily have too big of an issue with this right here. Yeah, you're going to see a little bit of dry air entrainment potentially happening in the next 6 days, but ultimately this does, at least according to the European, mix out fairly quickly and fairly easily, and that's when you start seeing this intensification going on right here. Especially as the system consolidates, you're going to see a lot more moisture, you're going to see a lot more convection with this as well, and this is kind of a type of dry air I wouldn't be too worried about in terms of tropical development. I would definitely be worried about it in terms of impacts in those tuning into the Antilles, but I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about it in terms of this hindering tropical development because this is more mixable dry air. And as long as the system generates convection and can mix it out fairly quickly, it should have no trouble developing in the long run. But this is a little bit finicky. This is a little bit tricky to forecast. And you never know. We could see a more moist environment than expected or a drier environment than expected. There's a lot of unknowns with this at this current point. So I am a little skeptical at this, but I can understand why the 0Z runs have escalated the way they have. Taking a quick gander at this, and we'll have to pay attention to it. We're going to need some more information and data first, but I am more inclined to look at the 0Z data, especially because, number one, the 0Z data and the 12Z data use the more observational forecasting and use as more observations, and they put in a lot more current time data than the 6Z and the 18Z, especially compared to what we saw with the 18Z GFS yesterday. That was quite a crazy scenario where we had just multiple storms kind of develop right there. It was the GFS happy hours, we like to call it. And we'll show you the 0Z GFS because it is more realistic. But yeah, the 18Z GFS was going off yesterday. So this is the European looking at the AI forecast just to kind of get a gauge of what's going on. Even the AI model does show something happening. The AI model does have it relatively weak right here. At least, actually, the European and the AI model are actually pretty on step with this, as a matter of fact. Remember, the AI model actually forecasted Invest 91L would not develop at all. The AI model is actually in lockstep with the European operational forecast right here, where it kind of has it kind of taking its time to organize and develop, and then really starts to turn up with its intensity as it gets towards the Lesser Antilles and north of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola as well. So that's also something to watch out for. So we're seeing a general agreement in the models compared to what we've seen previously. And just for context, I do want to show the 12Z AI model. The 12Z AI model didn't really show anything happening at that current point, at least until it got towards parts of the Bahamas and out to sea right here, but it still had it developing. The 0Z now, my goodness, the 0Z is quickly escalated, and the fact that we're seeing this escalation from the AI model as well is telling me, okay, Patrick, this is actually a legit signal, and we are not really seeing any very much uncertainty with the models right here, and that is something that we, as forecasters, look and we go, yeah, this is going to be a bit of a problem because this isn't just the Euro or the AI. Every single model is forecasting this. And we'll go ahead and show you as well. Here is the GFS 0Z as well. The 6Z is loading at the time of recording this video, but I won't be able to show you all of it. But here's what we have for the 0Z GFS. System does take its time, actually, similar to the European, as a matter of fact. It does take its time to get its act together. But what I do find interesting is what the GFS ultimately does. It kind of has the low pressure system behind it developing, and the other one kind of getting killed off and absorbed right here, kind of with that vorticity getting stretched. It still has it intensifying down the line, but the meteorology behind it does kind of make it questionable, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing with this right here. I don't generally know what's going on with this, and I don't think the GFS, at least this run, is the most reliable. It's definitely the track and intensity are, but the meteorology at the beginning, where in its initial stages of development, do make me question a few things with this. But we will watch out for it. We will pay attention to it right here on the Pat's Pathbreaker channel. But the meteorology doesn't make too much sense at this current point with the GFS. Here's the Canadian run, having the system organizing and developing actually relatively quickly. It starts to get its act together, and it does have it further to the north than the European and GFS, and generally weaker, but it does have a strengthening trend. 977 millibar system by the time we're about 9.5 days out with this. And then you also have the wave behind this as well, starting to get its act together moving forward as well. You do have that kind of coming off the coast of Africa and moving further to the west. So you're going to want to watch out for that, but we'll keep it mainly an eye on this current system right here. But what a escalation of the 0Z models. And even the icon, we can go ahead and show you this. The icon is generally iconic for not being the best model in this run, but even still, the icon does have the system organizing and developing, although it is generally weaker compared to what we saw at 12Z. Actually, yeah, just a little bit weaker at this, but it is a little bit further to the south. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well. But the icon does generally have a tropical storm developing right away over here. But still, my goodness, what an interesting suite of models that we've seen. So this has really escalated over the last 24 hours right here. Now, am I going to say that we're now anticipating tropical development in this video? It's a little tricky and a little early for me to say that, but I am leaning more towards that corner, but mainly because it's not just the operational runs, even the AI models are forecasting this to happen. So that's part of the reason why I'm leaning towards this developing. Although I do think it's going to take its time to organize and develop, and we probably won't see much development or much strengthening until this system gets either A, in the Northwestern Caribbean, which I do think is a possible scenario as long as the system stays weak, or B, moves into the southwestern Atlantic. And I know there's been a lot of debate about this, saying, oh, this is going to be like Invest 91L, or oh, we don't know what's going to happen right now. My personal opinion on this as of right now is I am leaning towards this developing, given this latest run of models being so in lockstep with each other, especially with the European, the AI, the GFS, and even the Canadian run being so in lockstep with each other. You rarely see that for a long-term forecast in this day and age, especially in 2025, where there's so much uncertainty in the air with these models, that I am more inclined, based on what I'm seeing and given the data I have and given the kind of dynamics that we're looking at, I am more inclined to trust this than I was previously. Now, if we do see the models drop in support, that'll be a whole different story with this. But right now, I am leaning towards this developing. And also part of this as well is because you have your water temperatures and your ocean heat content to watch out for too. Very briefly, here are your water temperatures as well. And this is also part of the reason why I like this scenario, where it takes its time to organize and develop and then rapidly escalate once it gets towards the western part of the MDR. So you're looking at this right now. It's over 28 to 29 degrees Celsius waters. It's going to be in those 28 degrees Celsius waters generally as it moves towards parts of the western MDR. But then as you get towards the Lesser Antilles, you're looking at 29 degrees Celsius plus, especially as the system heads towards the southwestern Atlantic as forecasted by some of these models, where ultimately you could definitely see this running into the same waters as Aaron and generally running into the same conditions that Aaron faced to some extent. So that's kind of your water temperatures by themselves. And also another thing I'm worried about is the ocean heat content. OHC continues to be a big concern, and this is also part of the reason why I agree with this not developing right away, because right now where it's at, it's in an area of about 25-ish ocean heat content. The water temperature may be very warm, but it's not very deep down, and it needs to wait until it gets to the central MDR for those water depths to increase considerably. But once it does that, and once it gets deeper into the tank over there, it'll have a better shot of tropical development, and especially if it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles, where you're looking at 100 to 125, even cracking 150 plus in a few areas as well. And that's something that we're going to want to pay attention to here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, and we will keep you updated as more information comes out. In terms of streaming, I'm going to wait another day to wait for more information and data before I jump to conclusions and start streaming. But if Weather Kingdom's streaming, I'm going to hop on there just to look at the data, and we'll keep you updated on there. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.